Hello everybody, JJC Anime here. Today we are going to be reviewing Amagi Brilliant Park. This is a series I have a very interesting past with, as I started it, then I stopped like 2 to 3 episodes in, and then after I didn't go back to it for like a year. That's why I decided it was finally time to just watch it. So yeah, after having finally sat down and watched through it all, this is that review for that, so let's just hop right into it. So, what is the plot for Amagi Brilliant Park? The basic concept is that the main character, Seiya, gets asked out on a semi-date by this person called Sento, and it's to this place called Amagi Brilliant Park, where she takes him around the park, they see how messed up it is, and then she kind of like tries to force him to work with her and all the people in the park to try to get enough visitors to let them keep the park open. And yeah, that's how the story kind of starts off. After that, Seiya first is like, oh no, I don't want to do this before. Eventually, by the end of the first episode, agreeing like, okay, yeah, sure. I think it was either the first or second episode, but he's just like, yeah, sure, let's do this. And yeah, that's the basic start of it. And let's just hop into some spoiler-free thoughts. So in spoiler-free thoughts, I kind of enjoyed this series, but to a certain degree, where most of the episodes were very mediocre to me. Nothing was really exceptional. And then there was like these really 2 weird episodes in a row where one wasn't too weird. It kind of fit the theme of the show. And then there's this other one where it almost fit, but it also made me a bit uncomfortable to the point that I really didn't want to keep watching that one episode. And it was a very awkward episode. We can go about talking about that in the spoiler section. And then there was 3 really good episodes I could think of where they was like a 3 in a row. It was really good. Then there's the final episode, which was there. But yeah, it's not too bad. None of the characters are really dislikable per se. There are some that I'm not a big fan of, but I can't really say there's anyone in particular. Like all the main characters, like the Tifa, Seiya, Sento, they're all really good characters. Though I do question characters like Tirami, who honestly I don't really like at all. She's not a bad character, but nothing that interesting to me. But yeah, overall, the cast was very enjoyable. The only big problem I think I definitely have with the series is definitely its lack of development, because there's the main goal of getting 500,000 visitors before a certain deadline so the park won't close. And for the first few episodes, so like the first 1 to 7, they don't do too much with that. Like with the first few episodes, like 1 or 2 episodes, they do something. But then after that, it's mostly just kind of like recruiting new characters. And I didn't mind that, but it didn't really feel like anything was making progress. In the later half, it definitely felt like there was a lot more progress being made, and that's why I enjoyed it a lot more. And, the series had its chuckles. There were moments where I was like laughing out loud like crazy, being like, the funniest thing ever. No, I didn't have any moments like that, but I definitely had a lot of chuckle moments where this series, while not extremely over the top funny, it has its own charm. I definitely found myself chuckling at a lot of the jokes and a little haha here and there, but nothing like gut bursting or anything like that. It's definitely some decent comedy, but nothing too over the top. It was enjoyable for the most part, and yeah. That's all I can really say without hopping into any spoilers, so we're going to enter the spoiler section now. Here's the timestamps and the spoiler section is done. If you have seen Amagi Brilliant Park, I recommend sticking around to hear my thoughts on the spoilers section, so you can, hear my thoughts. And if you haven't, skip to the end, because you don't want any spoilers. But if you have seen it, again, stick around. So I'm going to count down from 5, and we're going to enter the spoiler section. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So I mentioned before that there was one episode that made me uncomfortable. And that episode is one episode where the main character, Seiya, or Kani, or however you want to pronounce it, he gets sick. And rather than just calling into his school being like, hey, yo, I'm sick, could you just make me absent for the day, I don't feel well. Instead of doing that, instead they think, let's use these bodysuits that make us look and sound like people and have some of the park characters and people just go around and act as him. And it creates like these giant love fiascos and stuff like that. And even though it really shouldn't have, seeing all these people act as him and do all these weird things in his body, it made me weirdly uncomfortable. I've never really been a big fan of characters taking other characters' places in stories. it's kind of like my term of cringe, where whenever I am watching these people do this stuff, it just makes me feel so uncomfortable, and I really wasn't enjoying myself during that segment. And then there was the other weird episode that kind of fit with the theme of the show, but at the same time it felt kind of odd, where some kind of gate flooded open and some pirates attacked the park and they treated it like a show, which wasn't that different. But then there was like this weird thing, like a pit of tentacles. It was a strange episode. Again, it's not too off-putting, but just those two episodes in particular, which they were literally back to back, were very awkward to watch. And it was right after I started to think, this show can actually be pretty fun. And so it didn't leave that great of an impression on me with those two episodes. But then after that, I was very surprised, because the next 3 episodes after that, which are where they're dealing with like the final showdown, I guess you could say, where they're so close to reaching 500,000 people visiting the park. They just had like do the one final stretch of it. And that was freaking awesome. Like, I had so much fun doing those 3 episodes. Like, they were all super fun, super entertaining, and I just was so surprised, because everything else up to that point had either been mediocre and passable or kind of disturbing. This was the first time when I was watching Amagi Brilliant Park, that I was thinking, dude, I'm actually invested. To the point that when they managed to pass the goal, I literally like stretched out my hands like, yeah! Like, I was so happy for them. And it was just, I actually felt like caring during that bit. And all I could think after that, once the episodes were over, was, where was that the rest of the season? Like, where was the thrill of wanting to see how they would go about fixing the park up? Like, where was the thrill of that? Most of it was just random recruitment missions. I'm not even kidding. Literally every episode they would try to recruit somebody new, and that was about it. It wasn't until those 3 episodes, where episode 12 felt like the finale of the season, funny enough, where every other episode felt like it didn't really accomplish much. It was mainly just there to tell jokes. Which, again, not bad. It's just most of the comedy didn't do that well for me. Most of it either got a chuckle or nothing at all. And it definitely could have been better comedy. Overall, though, I didn't hate it. And then there was the weird final episode. As I mentioned, episode 12 felt like the finale. It felt like the end of the season. Everything was concluded. Everything was set up and just done with and by set up, I mean like everything set up for any future seasons they would have made, which they didn't at the time of this filming. I haven't seen any announcements for a second season. But for the show, there was the whole season just felt concluded at episode 12. So what was episode 13? Because there was a 13 episode season. What was that episode? It was them trying to make a promotional trailer for the park, or a PV, preview video. And it was just like a lot of the others. It was all right. It was very mediocre, and I'd like to think that if you just want to kind of like feel happy at the end, just watch up to episode 12. Episode 13 could practically just be an OVA episode, because it's just, it doesn't really need to be there. Overall, though, I did have a decent time. It's not a perfect show. There are definitely things that could have been improved upon that I honestly wish they did improve upon, but not bad. Plus, there's some really good moments of animation that I was very surprised by, especially this one moment where the main character, Seiya, is like trying to cheer up Sento about her place in the community at Amagi Brilliant Park, and now she doesn't really know how to do her job as his secretary, because she's not really used to doing that. And he goes on this whole spiel, and during that whole thing, he's moving so fluently, like you could tell the animators were having fun with that little speech of his. And I was having fun with it too. It was definitely enjoyable, and while I do admit there were some things I wish that didn't happen, such as one big reveal near the end where Latifah is revealed that she'll lose all her memories on, I think it was like the first of some month or something, I don't remember which month, but basically at the end of one specific month, she would lose all of her memories and go back to the year before, kind of like a rewind. And their excuse for not making her rewind her memories and everything was a tree that absorbs the stuff that made her lose the memories and stuff. And it's not a bad thing, I guess. It's nice that she remembers everything and she's not changed it yet, but it felt a bit anticlimactic, because the way that her whole setup for it ended felt satisfying to me, to the point that I was actually feeling a bit sad about it. And the fact that she's immediately just like, oh yeah, no, I still remember everything. It's just like, dude, really? You tugged at my heartstrings just to reel it back? I get that's meant to be impactful. It's meant to leave a lot of emotion to it, but overall, it didn't really feel right at times. But again, it's not the worst thing ever. I'm fine with her having her memories and everything. I guess I'm just cool with it. I'm fine with it. It's perfectly fine. It's just sometimes I'd like dramatic things to happen in a comedy or slice of life to remind us, oh yeah, sometimes these moments can exist. Sometimes it can be a bit serious. But, meh. In the end, that doesn't really matter. It was still an enjoyable series. Not perfect, not bad, but enjoyable, so yeah. With that being said, we're at the conclusion of this video, and what are my final thoughts? It's a decent watch. It's not perfect in any way, it definitely has its flaws, and while it definitely does get some chuckles out of me, it's not like the perfect comedy. It's not like some of those shows where I can't help but laugh out loud, like The Eminence in Shadow, a show I've talked about a few times on this channel, and I just love so much, and I'm looking forward to eventually reviewing it when I get the chance. It's one of the funniest comedies I've ever seen, but it's really hard to compare the two since I honestly have different opinions about both of them, and it's really hard to compare the two, but yeah, Amagi Brilliant Park, not a bad comedy, it's decent enough. If there was another season, I don't know if I'd watch it or not. It could be possible, maybe? It's definitely like a 50-50 chance it could happen. I don't know, but a second season would have to come out first for me to make such decisions, so the odds of that happening are pretty slim because I'm pretty sure, when did this show come out? Oh, back in 2014, I just saw. Back in 2014, yeah, I don't know if this is getting a second season, but you never know. There are some shows that come back after 8 or so years to get another season. So, you know, it could happen. But yeah, I'll leave that on its own for now, so I'm just gonna say it now. I give Amagi Brilliant Park a 7 out of 10. It's not bad, it's not perfect, but if you're just looking for a way to pass the time and enjoy yourself, it's a perfectly fun time. It's just enjoyable. Nothing special, nothing big. It's just fun, and I'm okay with that. So yeah, that's all I really have to say. So thank you all for watching. If you're new to the JGC Anime channel, don't forget to subscribe. I also do anime hints to the channel, and I will see you all around. Peace!